Hi, this is Wendy. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the Summer Fun Tote. This is a bag that's about 12 inches wide, 3.5 inches deep, and about 13 inches tall. But of course, you can customize it to any size you like. Just keep in mind that the stripe pattern is a multiple of 18 stitches. So if you add to the size of the bag, you'll have to add in increments of 18. For this tote, I've chosen a combination of 3 colors. Of course, you can choose any 3 you like, but this is a fun summery combination. It's a worsted weight Bernat satin yarn. It's got a little bit of a shine to it. It's an acrylic, 100%. A number 4 medium weight yarn. 100-gram balls, and they are about 200 yards a piece. I think I'll need 2 in the main color and 1 in the other 2 colors. So starting with this aqua color, oh, and I should have mentioned the other 2 colors are fern and snow. So yes, starting with the aqua color, I'm going to need 3 strands of this. And we're going to start off with the base of the tote. I'm using a 5mm hook for this pattern. And I'm going to start with my starting loop on one of the strands and chain 13. So that's 13. Be careful not to pull too tight with this chain. It needs a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so part of the trick with this tote is you carry along 2 filler strands as you go, and I'll explain in a moment why that's so important. There's 2 important reasons that I'm doing that. So I'm going to hold those behind the chain, like so. And taking my starting one, my starting strand, I'm going to single crochet into this second chain from the hook, going around the extra 2 strands, picking up my loop, pulling it back through, leaving maybe 3 inches hanging out the end to work in later, and do a single crochet. And the same thing across. Into the chain, go around the 2 extra strands, work a single crochet. And I'm going to do that all the way across the chain for a total of 12 single crochets. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. Now I like to pull my chain ones fairly snug before I turn. Just makes a neater edge for this kind of a project. Now when I turn, I'm going to carry those 2 filler strands along with me, and working back across those 12 single crochets, I'm going to do another 12, working on top of those filler strands again. So making sure I'm going underneath them each time and hiding them inside the stitch. You want to carry them along so they hide smoothly inside the stitch and don't bulge out the sides, but also not so tight that they're going to distort the shape of the work. If you're a new crocheter, you're going to want to count your stitches the first few rows to make sure that you have 12 every time and you haven't accidentally lost one. Okay, so from here on out, at the end of each row, I'm going to give this a little bit of a tug, smooth it out, and make sure that those filler strands are nicely hidden inside. They're not gapping out the ends, but they're also not pulling so tight. Here, I'll show you an example, that they're distorting the shape, right? We want to keep it consistent width. And in my case, that's 3.5 inches. Okay, about 9 centimeters. And I want to make sure that it stays at that 3.5 centimeters for every row going up. And I am going to work a total of 49 rows in this exact same manner. Chain 1, turn it around, carry along the 2 filler strands, and work 12 single crochets. Now when we get to the body of the bag, working up the sides with the 3 colors, carrying along the 2 strands will allow me to switch colors and just hide the ones I'm not using inside the work, so you don't have to cut the strands every time you're changing colors. They will get a little tangled, you'll have to do some untangling, but that's the trade-off. The second purpose for these filler strands is they really provide a lot of structure to the tote. Typically when I make a crocheted bag, it stretches out quite a bit, but what these filler strands do is make it quite a bit stiffer and also keeps it from stretching. So you'll notice that when I give it a tug, you know, I can stretch it out on this row, but the previous rows, they're now pretty firm. It's going to really help to keep the bag from stretching out and keep it to the shape that I want it to have. So I'm going to continue on in that manner, like I said, for 49 rows, making sure that I check my width every once in a while, that it's staying at 3.5 inches, and that I am just giving it a bit of a tug to straighten it out at the end of every row. When I get to 49 rows, I will come back. So I hope you'll join me, give this a try. Work 49 rows in that manner in your chosen color, and then we'll come back and we will have the base of the bag just about done. Okay, so there's the base of the bag after 49 rows. So it's just over 12 inches long, and I've kept it very close to that 3.5 inches wide. It does stretch along the length of it, but the width really doesn't. It's quite firm. And when we work up the sides, it won't stretch sideways like that. So it'll balance each other out and it will be a nice structured bag. Okay, so after row 49, we're going to create a base row around the bag that we can build the sides on. And to do that, I'm going to keep working over these filler strands and turn as usual, chain 1 and turn. And the only difference with this row is I'm going to work 2 single crochets in the first and the last stitches. So 2 in stitch number 1 and 2 in stitch number 12, with 1 on each stitch in between. And those extra ones in the corners will just help to negotiate turning the corner. So still working around the filler strands every time. So that's number 11. And then in this last one, number 12, I'm going to do 2 single crochets. Then working down the side, I'm going to work 1 single crochet in the end of each row for a total of 49. And it does matter that it's exactly 49 because I mentioned earlier it's a multiple of 18, and we have to have exactly a multiple of 18, or in this case 120. 126 single crochets going around the base in order for this pattern on the sides to work. So just picking kind of a consistent point at the end of every row, I'm going to work 1 single crochet per row, carrying those filler strands along inside, making sure they don't pull too tight and they're not too loose. I know that doesn't sound very specific, but just give it a tug so it's got a good shape. And I'm actually working just in between the rows here because that's an easy place to put the hook. As long as it ends up with 49, 1 per row, that's what I'm looking for. And when I get to the other end, I'll do the same thing, work 2 single crochets in each of the end stitches. So I end up with 4 extras, 1 in each corner, 12 on each end, and 49 on each side for a total of 126. So I'm going to work all the way around and then come back and show you how we work the sides of the bag. There's the bottom of the bag complete with a row of single crochets all the way around. I've double checked my count to make sure that I have the 126 that I'm looking for. We're not going to join to the first one, but continue in the round from this point. So I've cut my 2 blue strands, my filler strands, but not my working yarn. And I'm going to replace those 2 filler strands with my color B and color C, so my other 2 colors. Again, leaving a bit of a tail that I'll work in later. I'm going to hold those behind the work. And this is the outside of the bag that's facing me. This is going to be the inside, and I'm going to work into the single crochet round that I just made. And this is when we start the pattern, which is a multiple of 6 of each color. So working in this first single crochet, I'm going to go under both sides of the stitch and work around my green and white in the same manner as I did before. And I'm going to work 6 stitches like this in the blue. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now when you're switching colors, you need to do that mid-stitch. So instead of finishing that stitch, I'm going to stop before the last pull through. Okay, when there's still 2 loops on the hook on the 6th stitch. So 5 are done. This is the 6th one, and I'm going to switch to my next color. So I'm going to switch to green and hold the blue and white as the filler strands. Pull the green through, and you'll see how now that finishes that stitch in blue, and the green one on my hook becomes the top of the next stitch. I'm going to tug the blue a little bit to clean up that stitch, give it a good tension. And now working over those other 2 colors, 6 in the green. That's 5, and again in the 6th one, before I do my last pull through, I'm going to switch to the white. And then working over the green and the blue, 6 in white, going around the corner. just going to stop for a second and get a bit of a tug to make sure that I haven't pulled those filler strands too tight. And from here on out, when I get to the end of each side or further up the bag, the end of each half a round or so, I'm going to give it a bit of tug to make sure that it retains its shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now it's time to switch to color A again, which is the blue. Tug on the white a little to tighten up that stitch, make sure it all looks nice and tidy, and work 6 in the blue. And then switch back to green. So I'm just going to continue in that manner all the way around. 6 blue, 6 green, 6 white, 6 blue, 6 green, 6 white. And when I get back to the beginning here, I should be at 6 white ones to start round 2, and my 6 blue ones will stack right on top, and my 6 green ones will stack right on top. And you can't see it yet, but this pattern takes advantage of the natural lean of single crochets when they're done in the round. They naturally lean to the right over time. So we're going to do vertical stripes that are stacked on top of each other and then kind of zigzag them over every time. But you'll see when we get to that. The important thing is that your first 10 rounds, the colors stack right on top of each other. So every time I see a green V, that's going to be a green stitch. When I see a white V, that's going to be a white stitch. Of course, when I'm doing the last green one, I have to pull the white through on my last pull through to be ready for that white stitch. I'll come back at the end of this round and show you what I mean. There's the first round of our colored stripes done, and you can start to see how pretty this color combination is. So again, make sure that it's not pulling too tight anywhere with your filler strands. I've done in sequence blue, green, white all the way around. And I'm on the last stitch of the 126. It's a white one. And now I'm going to stack 6 blue ones on top of the 6 blue. Now, if your threads are getting tangled up, I can show you a little trick here. If you keep your 3 balls going off in 3 directions like this, when you go to pick up your next color, you can actually hide the twist inside of the work. So my next color is going to be blue, and I might be tempted to pick it up here, but because I know I want it to end up in the middle, I'm actually going to pick it up behind the white like this. So you can see they're a little wrapped around each other, but that's going to be hidden inside the stitch. So if I pay attention each time to which direction my colors are going, I will not have to spend much time untangling the balls. Okay, so now my next 6 will be stacked on the very first 6, and that will make a vertical stripe. On the last stitch, again, look at what direction my threads are going in and pick up the green one and drop the other 2. Tug on the blue one to tidy it up and work the next 6. I should have mentioned that the complete written pattern for this summer fun tote is on my Etsy channel. You'll find the link in the description below. It's only $5 Canadian, and especially if you plan to make more than one, it's really handy to have the written pattern as a download. You can see here that the corner is pulling in, and that's what we want. It's turned inside out at the moment, but it will curl around nicely and start to form the sides of the bag. Okay, now I'll switch to white. I actually went one pull through too far, so I'll fix that. And 6 more in white. And 6, and then switch back to blue. So the thread management is a little bit tedious, but it's really what makes this design so effective. Okay, I'm going to do a total of 10 rounds in this color sequence before I shift it over in the zigzag. So if you're following along with me, we're now on round 2. And we're going to do a total of 10 rounds before making a change. Okay, so there we go. We've got 2 rows of 6 stacked on top of each other. I am going to put a stitch marker, if I can find one, in this first blue stitch, so that later on when I've got to 10 and I need to make a change in the first stripe, the first vertical stripe, I'll know that's my starting one. So that will mark my starting point. Once I've got 10 rows, right now you can see I have 2. It's pretty easy to count them. So I'll come back after 10 rows and show you how we put the zigzag in the pattern. It's very simple. It really is an uncomplicated design, but it's just really effective. And I hope you're enjoying it. See you soon. So the tote is coming along. I've got 10 rounds and I've come back to my starting stripe here, this blue one, and I know because I left the stitch marker there. And it's starting to take on the proper shape with the sides coming up. And as you can see, there's a natural lean to the crochet stitches. They tend to lean to the right, and this pattern takes advantage of that fact in making the zigzags. So now that I've come to my starting point, I want to shift everything over by 3 stitches, and I'm going to do that by just adding 3 to this stripe. So there's my 6 as normal, and I'm just going to do 3 more. So this one will have a total of 9. And what that does is shift the starting point of the next stripe. I forgot to change colors, so I have to go back and go with the green. Okay, so in the end of that 3rd stitch, I've switched to my green yarn. Now I'll just go back to making 6 of each color. Always working over top of the other 2 threads and holding them in behind. And after this 6th one, switch to the white. And carry on with the white, and so on. Okay, so you can see how they've shifted over, and now they'll continue on their lean to the right. And after I've done 10 more rows, I'll do the same thing, just shift it 3 to the left. So it is just a really simple pattern. If you can do a single crochet, you can make this bag. Another thing that I did is I went to the dollar store and I picked up a inexpensive cutting mat. So just something that you would use in your kitchen. And using a pair of kitchen shears like this, I cut a piece of that mat off to make a plastic insert for the bottom of the bag. And I just made it the same size as the base, and that will just add some strength to the bottom of the bag and help to keep it clean and things from poking through. Although it's a fairly tight weave, shouldn't poke through too much, but it just gives me a nice clean and tidy base to the bag. So I'm going to continue on, and when I feel the bag is just about tall enough, I will come back and show you what's next. See you soon. All right, so I have completed 5 sections of 10 rows, so 50 rows altogether up this side. Of course, you can make it taller if you want to, but I'm pretty happy with that. It is on the sides about 12¼ inches, and I'm going to add a little bit of a band at the top in solid blue to bring it up to about 13. So another 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of a solid band. So I've cut the green and the white threads, and I am going to add in a couple of blue threads. And the reason I'm going to switch to 2 blue is just because I'd like it to look solid blue like it is at the bottom here. Although the colors don't show through that much when you're doing single crochet. It's not bad at all. This is not the quickest project ever because the stitches are small, but it is simple. So I guess that's the trade-off in this one. So I'm going to drop the white and the green, just tuck them inside for now, get them out of the way, and work over top of 2 blue strands. Okay, so I'm just going to do several rounds in plain blue to give me a bit of a border at the top, and then I'll fasten it off and we will make the straps. So there's my solid top edge finished. Now it's on to make the straps. The strap for this bag is done on the same principle of using filler threads to add strength. Now acrylic is a bit stretchy, so I'm going to use 1 strand of the acrylic and a 2nd strand of this crochet cotton, actually 2 strands of this, because I think that'll be a nice filler like that. Why crochet cotton? Oh, I should show you the label. This is Aunt Lydia's No. 3 crochet thread, so it's a fairly heavy crochet cotton, the kind that you would use for a doily or a wall mandala or something. And the thing about cotton is it's not very stretchy. Think of, cotton string. It's quite strong. And the strap is going to be done lengthwise, and with that double layer of the crochet cotton in there, that'll give it a lot of lengthwise strength. and reduce stretching. So I have chained 100 stitches, which in my case works out to about 26 inches, essentially double the height of the sides of the bag. I want fairly long straps so I can carry it over my shoulder, but of course you can adjust the length of the straps to your own preference. Now you could single crochet just in the top half of the V like this. There's nothing wrong with that. For a strap, I like to single crochet in the back bump. So if you turn your chain over, V's are on the front, you've got this little row of bumps down the center of the back. And when we crochet into that bump, leaving the V on the other side, I'll do a few and I'll show you what happens. So not only do we have a nice row of V's on this side, but we've left a nice row of V's on the other side as well. It makes a nice edge for a strap that's going to be seen. It'll match on both sides then. Now I have to go back because I didn't put my cotton threads in. Okay, so there's my filler blue thread and my 2 cotton threads. I'm going to leave a bit of an end so that I can tie them off later and go into that back bump under my filler threads. It's a bit awkward at first. Pick up the yarn and do a single crochet through the next back bump. When I get to the end, I'm going to carry my filler threads along, going back down the other way, just going over top of them and hiding them inside the strap. And I will do 6 rows of single crochet to make the strap. Then they'll be fastened onto the bag just by stitching them on. Alternately, you could fasten them to something like this, well, I was going to say a ring, but it's a square ring. I pulled these off of another purse that I had that was worn out, so I could attach them to the straps and then attach these to the bag. That's another option. So when I have 6 rows completed, and I should have mentioned at the end of the row, chain 1 to turn. Okay, chain 1 and then just come back with single crochets again for 6 rows and then fasten off, and then we'll sew it to the bag. My straps are finished. They ended up being 24 inches long. If you would like them to be a little bit longer, you could always add more stitches than what I did. So I have 100 chains turned into 24-inch straps. But that's long enough to put over your shoulder, and they're wide enough to be comfortable without digging in. So I've sewn one side on already, and just spacing them evenly on either side. Take a yarn needle like that. And firmly stitch the strap right onto the bag. Just going around and around and catching the stitches at the end here. This is going to take quite a lot of weight if you fill up the bag, so you want to make sure that you fasten it really securely. Just do enough stitches to hold it on there nice and tight. And then I'm going to do some along the top as well, so turning it to the inside. Just run the yarn inside the stitches and a couple at the corner here. and across. And this is not the time to be dainty and just grab one thread. Make sure you grab a good chunk of each side so that it holds together really firmly. When that's done, I like to run my thread at least an inch underneath there, and then skipping over a little bit, go back again in the same spot to anchor it nice and snug inside there. And there it is. I think I'll get a lot of use out of this. I hope that you'll try this for yourself, and if you enjoyed this project, check out some of my other videos. I encourage you to leave a comment and let me know if you made it for yourself, and if you've got any other ideas for videos that I could do in the future. And please like and subscribe. Have a super day, and thanks for joining me.